We are going to begin the funeral service for Mrs. Sue Pick. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode at this time or turn it completely off. I'd also like to welcome friends and family of visiting us via live stream. Thank you for attending. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Sam Gordon and Rabbi Brian Immerman, Sukkot Shalom in Wilmette.
On this beautiful day with sun and this time right before Thanksgiving, when we gather as family and friends and community to offer thanks, it is with that same feeling that we are gathered here to pay tribute to Sue Pick, a truly remarkable, wonderful, lovely woman of style and grace and intelligence and artistry. We mourn her loss, but we celebrate her life. We will share words of tradition as well as eulogies and remembrances from her children. Sue was a great lover of music and a supporter of Ravinia and Sanibel Island and music of the Baroque, and music was always such an important part of her life. As we begin this service, Stephen will share with us the music from West Side Story of Somewhere.
There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open air, wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together with time to spare, time to learn, time to care. Someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving somewhere. There's a place for us, a time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
Stephen, thank you. We look as well to words from tradition, from Psalm 121. Esa einai el haharim me ayin yavo Ezri me im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Eternal One, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal One is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forever. As we enter into this time period of Thanksgiving and the winter holidays, we are very aware of these times of being together as family and community. We are also aware that there are times of darkness, there are times of loss, there are times of mourning. And often that darkness and that cold of winter, at the end we feel the warmth of spring and the joy of summer. And so the seasons change as well as the times of our lives as we absorb those losses and they become the warmest of memories. In Ecclesiastes, we're taught, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Rabbi Brian Immerman will now also share words.
Dear friends and family, it's an honor to be with you all this morning. Psalm 23 is a major focus of funeral services in both Christianity and Judaism, for it promises that when we walk through a valley of the shadow of death, that we don't walk alone. We walk with the comfort of the divine presence, but especially we walk with the comfort of family, friends, and the community to guide us and support us through this darkest times in our lives. As the psalmist writes, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binodesha yarbitzeni amei menachot yanchaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magle tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech begates al mavet lo irara, ki ata imadi, for you are with me. Shivtecha umishantecha heme yenachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shochan neged sorarai, Dishanta b'shemen roshi kosi revaya, Aktov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chayai, Shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. Please join with me in the English on the inside of your handout. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Howard Thurman, a great theologian, teaches that we share with you the agony of your grief. The anguish of your hearts finds echo in our own. We know that we cannot feel all that you feel, nor hear with you the burden of your pain, but we can offer what our love does give, the strength of caring, the warmth of those who seek to understand the silent, storm-swept barrenness of so great a loss. And we do so in quiet ways, that on your lonely path you do not walk alone. The poet writes that birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we learn that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting.
I'm going to ask the grandchildren to join me up here and share this reading.
At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her.
At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember her.
At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her.
As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember her. When we have achievements that are based on hers, we remember her.
As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her.
We will now hear from those who knew her best and loved her most as her children share these memories.
I'm Nancy. I'm the eldest. In Japan, there's a concept called wabi-sabi, exemplified by a potter deliberately making a dent in a cup to show that perfection is not the goal. Our mom was definitely not the wabi-sabi type. Trained as an interior designer, she left little to chance. She cared about the fine points. She wanted things to look beautiful and to sound beautiful. And this was her love letter to our family and to the world. In examining some final details from her life, I think we can find significance there, and perhaps even a coded message from my dad. Let's start with color. My mom's favorite lipstick was L'Oreal Volcanic 410, a red orange that looked terrific on her even when she was in the hospital, a color as warm, youthful, and full of life as she was. I believe that her choosing a shade named Volcanic was anything but random. Back in 1960, she and my dad spent their honeymoon in Hawaii, and she often described their hotel perched on the edge of a volcano with mist rising up from the crater. It was a little scary and totally romantic. He was the love of her life, and they were married for 60 years. As for music, my mom wanted her grandson Stephen to sing here, as you just heard him do so movingly. She also wanted Bach and Chopin, which you've been listening to, and she asked for one specific aria, Voi che sapete, from Mozart's Marriage of Figaro. We will honor that wish very soon with a local opera singer who will perform at my mom's burial service. In the aria, Cherubino sings of his hopeless crush on an older woman, the Countess. In its charm, its playfulness, and its flirtatiousness, the aria speaks directly to my mom's sensibility. The right flowers were also important. In truth, my mom might have been miffed that she passed in November. No asters or mums, she requested, disliking the flowers of autumn. Instead, we've brought the flowers that we all associate with her, orchids. Supremely refined in color and form, orchids were always in bloom at my mom's house. They're not easy to care for, but she was an expert, and they often rebloomed for her year after year in all their exquisiteness. And the thing is, I see so many of my mom's wonderful qualities in our sons and in all of her 7 grandchildren, her many talents spread among them, a love of words and good writing, fine musicality, a sharpness of eye and aesthetic sophistication, and a rocking sense of humor. Perhaps it goes without saying that my mom's refined sensibility meant that she wasn't easy to please. Here, I humbly admit that the weight of keeping her happy in these last years fell mainly on my 3 siblings, and I want to thank them with all my heart. Sally made many visits and countless therapeutic phone calls. Betsy, with help from her doctor husband, Guy, expertly oversaw my mom's complex medical care. Charlie was wonderfully dedicated. In every way, together he and Mom rebuilt every detail of the Sanibel condo after it was destroyed in Hurricane Ian. My mom so wanted to get back there, but it was not to be. Some things are beyond our control. And then there were our incredible caregivers. Deborah Salisbury was for many years a brilliant and warm-hearted companion who saved our mom from the curse of loneliness, especially after the death of our dad 4 years ago. And since this summer, in my mom's last difficult months, Faith Takas stepped in with amazing competence and heartfelt devotion that touched us all. But let me return to the sense that, for my mom, nothing was left to chance. She died at the age of 88. 88 is quite a number. There are 88 keys on the piano, an instrument that she played very beautifully. Turn those 8s on their side, and they make double infinity, a sign that she will live on in our memories forever. And what about in Morse code, which my dad knew and loved from his time in the Navy? 88 in Morse code has particular significance. As a sign-off to a radio message, it meant love and kisses. Perfect.
So I'm Lawrence Douglas, Nancy's husband, Sue's son-in-law. So this is my Suelogy. Many of you know that Sue was a standout at Michigan. Much of this had to do with her intelligence. She graduated with honors, writing a senior thesis on Faulkner. But there were other reasons too. I remember many years ago, I met a Jewish Amherst alum who came from the Chicago area. I asked him if he knew my father-in-law, Tom Pick. Tom Pick, he said, no, can't say I do. How about his wife, Sue Pick? His face lit up. Sue Novitsky Pick? I dated her at Michigan. A few years later, a new colleague in Amherst's economics department introduced himself to me. Hey, by any chance, is Sue Pick your mother-in-law? I nodded. Oh, send her my dad's regards. He dated her at Michigan. When I asked Sue if she remembered my colleague's father, she issued one of her deep sighs. Oh dear, she said, there were so many. Obviously, Sue remained exceptionally pretty until the very end. Her bizarrely smooth skin was the envy of every older woman and the source of the sour grapes mutter, she must have had work done. But to me, her attractiveness was in her personality and in her quick, even outrageous sense of humor. I remember the wedding announcement that she drafted for Nancy and me. The groom's first marriage, it declared, ended in disaster. Then there was the family gathering when Tom got a bit tongue-tied in giving a toast. I think I left a dangling participle. Without skipping a beat, Sue said, so that's what that was. Then there was her warm heart. She and my dad grew close shortly before he died last year. When he was ailing, she sent him a lovely card inscribed, I love you more than bacon. And my father at first was somewhat puzzled, bacon? but I explained that coming from Sue, this meant a lot. A few months later, when my mom also died, we had this text exchange. Sue, I plan to adopt you if it's okay. Me, you're on. Sue, wonderful. Please let the others know I've altered my will. Charlie, I hope she let you know that. So I guess on some level that means that Nancy and I are now brother and sister. But in any case, I just wanted to end by saying, I'll miss you, Mom.
I will miss my mom's strong, kind, beautiful, elegant, generous in all senses of the word, smart, witty, and at times admittedly challenging presence in my life. After all, what mother-daughter relationship doesn't have its complexities? At first blush, Mom was a typical polite suburban Midwesterner, but it didn't take long for people to realize that she was as sharp as a tack, engaging, and could have an edgy wit. There are times when my humor doesn't fall far from that tree. She was thoughtful and generous in small and big ways. She never missed sending a card and gifts for birthdays and special occasions, even to extended family. When her terrific cleaning woman and all-around helper in Florida needed a place to stay after a hurricane, Mom offered her condo. She organized festive parties for our big birthdays, including arranging for birthday cakes from a local bakery that were not only delicious, but had frosting illustrations that celebrated who we are. For my 50th, the chocolate cake had school banners, a sign saying "Eat Organic," a trowel, carrots, and strawberries for my love of gardening, and a depiction of my house that even included solar panels. Mom was a lifelong Democrat like her parents. She stayed so current on politics that I had to read up before calling her, as I often take sanity breaks from the news. We suspect that she lived a record-breaking 18 days on hospice for her vote to be counted. She would be so distraught at the results of the election. I'm sad when I think of wanting to talk to her about it. I know she would try to reassure me, as she has in the past, that she lived through other hard times. As kids, Mom wanted her daughters to wear dresses or skirts. It didn't go over well with this lesbian in training who wanted to climb trees, hang upside down on jungle gyms, and play sports. After a rocky coming out process with my mom, she eventually got over the shock and grew to accept me as a lesbian. Mom and Dad invited my then long-term partner on family trips and gatherings. Later, when I was single, I vividly remember a phone conversation with my mom. She told me about dinner she had with close friends of hers and friends of theirs. The friends of hers had a daughter living in Boston, about 2 hours away. The daughter had a graduate degree and worked at a software company. Suddenly it dawned on me that my mom was trying to set me up with a successful Jewish woman. I remember my jaw dropping, and after getting off the phone, dancing around the room because Mom had fully embraced my lesbian identity. I love you, Mom, and I'm so relieved that you are no longer suffering. Rest peacefully beside the love of your life, Daddy, and with your sister, Aunt Judy, and next to Auntie Mary, your other sister.
As you may have noticed, I'm Sally's twin. Just to remember who I am, my mom used to dress me in blue for Betsy, so anyway. As we all know, Mom was stunningly beautiful, always dressed stylishly, and never, ever frumpy, even on her worst days. I did not inherit that trait. As a kid, I occasionally was on the receiving end of, "You're wearing that?" before leaving the house for a dinner or an event. She had the gift of care for orchids like the ones next to me. They were elegant like her. Although I consider myself to have a green thumb, I never have been able to get orchids to rebloom the way Mom did. The orchids reflect her beauty, and I will do my best to keep them and her memory alive. Mom had so many other talents. She voraciously devoured books, typically 7 a week. The librarians knew her by name. Surprisingly, our son Andrew grew to love reading and writing like his grandmother. He even graduated college with an English minor. Mom's intelligence extended into many realms, but electronics perplexed her and infuriated her. Years ago, though, she was able, with guidance and a lot of luck, to program her VCR. It's kind of like a DVD player, and anyway, and streaming, anyway, for the younger folks. She was able to program her VCR to record the ever-important All My Children that she became hooked on after Sally and I watched it for years on boring, excessively hot summer afternoons. She also struggled with directions. It's a genetic trait from her mother's side. You could put her in a paper bag and turn her around, and she'd get lost trying to find her way out. Fortunately for me, my dad's genes balanced out my mom's in that department. I think that my mom believed that I was as directionally challenged as she was. A few months ago, I drove her to one of her nearby appointments at a location that I have been before. She was giving me Siri-like instructions, and I told her, "Mom, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up here and I know my way around." Thinking back, I should have used my dad's line, "I've driven hundreds of thousands of miles." You may not know that during my mom's University of Michigan days, she was for a time a music major and sang opera. When we were growing up, my mom occasionally sang show tunes or holiday songs at the piano with us and our cat George singing along. But sadly, I never heard her sing opera. This was pre-YouTube. She did, however, leave a musical legacy that bonded her to my younger son, Stephen. They sang and played piano together over the years. I will miss our conversations, our phone conversations, our dinners together, your sometimes inappropriate but funny quips, your stylish outfits, your generous gifts, and our intellectual conversations on diverse topics. I would like to reiterate Nancy's thanks to all of Mom's caregivers who gave Mom comfort in her final years and days, especially Deborah and Faith. Mom, I'm glad that you can now be with Daddy in Sanibel, watching the sunset together while enjoying a rare T-bone steak and a glass of Sonoma Cutrer with a few cubes of ice. Cheers, Mom.
I am Charlie Pick. I am the youngest. The passing of my mother has left a huge hole in my heart and in my life, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here who feels this way. You've heard from others about Mom's long list of attributes, so I'm not going to rehash all that. She was an amazing woman and an amazing mom. To state the obvious, funerals are hard. How do we reflect on the totality of one's life in a few brief moments with a handful of words? How do we do it justice? Are we painting an honest picture? Are we revising history to suit the gravitas of the moment? All I can say is that with Mom, you can believe the hype. Yes, she could be particular at times, but that happens when you have a strong sense of self and a clear vision of what you want. I see that in our own incredible kids, including our daughter Kira, whose energy, spirit, intelligence, and strength will take her far in life. Grandma was proud. Now let's talk about connections. I think Mom figured out a long time ago, or maybe she always knew, that happiness derives from the strength and quality of one's relationships. As my sisters and I have endured the arduous task of sharing the news of her passing with Mom's extended family, friends, and colleagues, we have gotten a glimpse into how deep her connections ran. Mom, in many ways, was the connective tissue of our extended family. She made the effort to connect with people in a meaningful way and stay involved in and informed about their lives. She made any gathering of people better by being genuinely interested in people, listening intently, and conversing with ease. She brought energy, empathy, humor, and kindness into every life she touched. As we start to sort through the decades of correspondence, pictures, articles, and more, the depth and breadth of her connections reveal themselves. We see decades-long relationships with close friends, with her kids and grandkids and thousands of cousins, and her colleagues in the arts, music, and the environment, both in Chicago and in Sanibel. And of course, with her devoted husband of over 60 years. May he rest in peace. Thanksgiving is just a couple of weeks away now. And for the first time, she won't be there. And to be honest, I can't wrap my head around it. Who will be our great connector now? Who will praise my turkey even if it's too smoky or overcooked? When you lose your mom, you lose your mom. I guess all I can express for now is gratitude for having her in my life for 56 years and heartbreak. Mom, I will miss you forever.
What remarkable memories and tributes and expressions of love for this woman of such grace and beauty and style, who could light up a room with her smile, greeting everyone with such incredible warmth. There are so many people, those who were closest to her, who she loved so dearly, but also those individuals and institutions which are deeply grateful for her generosity. I can speak on behalf of Congregation Sukkot Shalom, my own congregation, that she and Tom provided anchor gifts to allow us to really prosper. They believed in us, and I will forever be grateful for that. She also brought her talent and insight and creativity to everything she touched. Ravinia, Sanibel music of the Baroque, Chicago Public Library Foundation. She was a woman of strength and dignity, always in charge, even to the end, even knowing what this would be like. She leaves us with an incredible gift of memory. The Ravinia Women's Board wrote this: "She leaves a legacy of service to the festival and her fellow Women's Board members, who will cherish her memory and greatly miss their wonderful friend and colleague." When Stephen sang so beautifully, Somewhere, for many people, Somewhere is one of those earworms that once it's in your head, it keeps coming up over and over again. And in some ways, that defines Sue as someone who will always be in our memory, coming up with beauty, of hearing her voice and seeing her presence, and always having her as part of us, kind of like an earworm of Somewhere, but bringing warmth to us and retelling her story, reviving her love, and sharing it with those whom we touch in the future. So we pay tribute to her by how we live going forward. May her memory remain an abiding blessing for all time. O God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow laden for consolation. O God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. We rise for the memorial prayer, body or in spirit. El Malei Rachamim, Shochim Bamramim, Hamatzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utahorim Kazohar Harakia, Mazirim et Nishmatenu, et Yekarinu, Shahalchala Olamim, Baal Harachamim Yistareha, Beseter Kanafav Olamim, Vitur Bitur HaChayim et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata Vena Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, Venomar, Amen. O God, full of compassion, eternal Spirit of the universe, we ask that you grant perfect rest under your sheltering presence to Sue Pick, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, within the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The interment will be private. A reception will be held at Lakeshore Country Club, 1255 Sheridan Road in Glencoe. The reception will begin approximately 1:45-ish, and a light lunch will be served. That address is on the folder, so if you didn't get a folder when you entered the chapel, please get one when you leave. Mrs. Pick's grandsons will serve as pallbearers: Jacob, Milo, Andrew, Stephen, Jackson, and Logan. At this time, if everyone will please rise as the family and the clergy and Mrs. Pick are escorted from the chapel.